Hello there, ROS developers, and welcome to a new open class number 151. Welcome everybody. And today we are going to be doing an open class on. One second, I'm hearing. Okay. Yeah. So today's open class is going to be dedicated to giving some a very basic introduction to Git, how you can use Git in order to develop your robotics project or any kind of code or project that you want to do. But today we are going to focus it, as always, into robotics. So yeah, we are going to do a brief introduction, something very basic, starting from zero. So yeah, welcome everybody, and let's get started. As always, please let me know if everything is fine, is sound is fine, video is fine, so that we can keep going without any issue. And yeah, so let's get started right now. Let me change to my computer screen. There I am. So, as always, I'm going to repeat it one more time. The first thing that you have to do is to get the class rosject. Okay. Hello, by the way, to Nabil. Nabil says everything is good. Perfect. So the first thing you have to do in order to start the class is to get the class rosject. Okay. Very easy. You can do this just by clicking on this button that you have here above the chat. So I'm going to do it myself right now. There we go. And this is going to create a copy of this rosject into your workspace, into your deconstruct account. And it's also going to automatically open it and bring you here to the rosject screen. Yeah, where you have here at the right the streaming area with the live stream, the chat. Also Peter, hello Peter, says everything is perfect also. Great. Then, all right. So for you, probably you are going to have less things opened. Let me start closing here some things. There we go. Yeah. So by default, you are going to have this Jupyter Notebook window opened. Yeah. And this Jupyter Notebook, basically, it contains the class notebook. So this contains all the instruction theory that we are going to be covering today. All the steps that I'm going to be doing are explained here. All right. So so yeah, basically everything is self-contained. Then you are going to be able to open this rosject again whenever you want. So you are going to have this rosject in your account forever. Okay. So you can come and revisit it, review it anytime you want. All right. Then, yeah, so let me know if you have been able to open the rosject properly, all of you. Yes, no? Are you here in the same screen as I am with the notebook opened and ready? Yes, says Hanie, Oswaldo, Jake, Nabil. Okay, perfect. Then, yeah, so let's get started, all right? Then, today we are not going to work with a specific simulation, okay? So we can skip this part. We are going to be launching some things in RVs later. But for now, we can just omit this. And as a requirement, I would only suggest that you know the basic Linux commands. Okay, so today's class is going to be very basic, so we are not going to do anything complex. Then the only requirement to be able to follow and understand this class is to know the basics of Linux. Okay, so you have a link here to a free course with all these contents. Then, about Git. So today we are going to be talking about Git, and probably most of you already know, or at least you have heard about Git, GitHub. So basically, Git is an open source software which is used to apply version control to your projects. Okay, what is version control? Well, as the name itself says, basically a version control system is a system that allows you to track the different versions and the modifications, the updates that you do to your project. Yeah, so it allows you to track all this so that you can, at any time you want, you can check all the different versions, all the different changes, updates that have been done to a specific project. Okay, and this is very important in any kind of development, but of course it's very, very important in robotics development. Yeah, because you are going to have a kind of history of how your project has been advancing, has been built step by step, all the different stages. Yeah, and also an important thing is that you can easily share your work with other people. Yeah, so anybody can update the same project, and of course you are going to be able to keep track of all the updates, of all the modifications that have been made to your project. Okay, so this is the basics. There are more things behind this, but for now I think this is a good introduction. Yeah, so Git is an open source software that can be used to apply version control to your projects. Okay, then in this class we are going to start from zero, from the beginning. Okay, so we are going to start by creating a local repository. Yeah, then we are going to get started here with exercise 1, where we are going to basically set up our shell in order to be able to work with Git. Yeah, so for this we have some commands here in exercise 1 that we need to execute. So for this, the first thing that you need to do is to open a new shell, yeah, a new terminal. So in order to do this, you have to come here to the first icon in the bottom bar, the first icon here to the left. If you click here, this is going to open, as you can see, a new shell, a new terminal. Yeah, this is a regular Linux shell, so you can type any kind of command here. Yeah, then before being able to actually use Git here, we need to execute a couple of commands for configuring, let's say, our Git, and we need to indicate our name and an email address. Okay, so we are going to start by running the first command here. What I suggest is that you copy it and paste it. Okay, so you can select the command here from the notebook directly, then copy it, for instance, like this, right click and copy, or just with the shortcut with Ctrl+C. And then you can come here to the shell and directly paste the command. Okay? Then here, what we are going to do is to indicate our name. So in my case, I'm going to put here Alberto Ezquerro, which is my name. There we go. And now I'm going to run this second command in order to indicate my email. So let me copy and paste, and then here what you have to do is to replace here the default ones provided and add yours. So in my case, I'm going to add my email at theconstructsim.com. There we go. Okay, so my Git is already configured for this shell. Okay? Ross says, I can't open a shell. What do you mean? That you can't open it? Yeah, it's here. It's this icon here. All right. Then first step done. So the very first thing that we need to do now is to initialize our repository. Yeah, so if we want to create a Git repository, we need to initiate it. Yeah, so the command used to initializing a Git repository is git init. Yeah, very simple. Then what this command does is to create a hidden folder like this, .git, which contains information related to the Git repository that you have just initialized. Okay, then we are going to initialize our own Git repository right now. So for that, we are going to start by creating a ROS package, okay? So we are going to initialize our Git repository in a ROS package, because we are always applying all these ideas to robotics development. So what better to create a Git repository from a ROS package, right? All right, then let's go with exercise 2, okay? Then we are going to create a new package inside our Catkin workspace, yeah? So let's, again, copy the commands from here. Yeah, we need to go to this specific folder, yeah? Home user Catkin workspace src, yeah? We need to be in this specific src folder from the Catkin workspace in order to create a new ROS package. Yeah, so make sure that you are in this path. Yeah, this pwd command that I have just executed, it just indicates the current path where you are at. Yeah, so you need to be here in home user Catkin workspace src. Then once you are here, you can create the package with a simple ROS command, which is Catkin create package. Yeah, so I'm going to copy it again from the notebook and paste it here into the shell. Yeah, so Catkin create package, then this is the name of the package, which in this case we are going to name it robot racetrack, and this is a dependency, ROS-by. This is a dependency that I am adding to my package. All right? So let's create this. Okay, now we can look here with an ls command into the folder, and you will see that a new package has been created here, named robot racetrack, right? All right. So next, we are going to get inside our package, cd robot racetrack, okay? Cd robot racetrack. Now here, if inside the package you run an ls command, okay, you are going to see that we have here an src folder, which is empty right now. Yeah, so there is nothing inside this src folder, it's empty. And then we have two files, a cmake lists and a package xml. Okay? So now that we are inside our package, we are going to actually initialize this as a Git repository. Okay, so we are going to initialize our Git repository here in our package, all right? So now we can run the command git init, okay? So I'm going to run it here, git init. There you go. And you should get a message like this one, which says initialize it, empty Git repository in home user Catkin workspace src robot racetrack.git, right? So now, if you run an ls command, again, you are going to see the same. But if you run an ls command with the a flag, yeah, a flag, this is going to show me all the files and folders, even the hidden ones. Yeah, because the regular ls command doesn't show hidden files or folders. Yeah, so if we want to see hidden files or folders, we need to add the a flag. So if now I run this command, I'm going to see that a new folder here, .git, has been created. Yeah, if whenever a folder or a file have this dot at the beginning, it means that it's hidden. All right. Yeah, so this indicates that this robot racetrack folder now, it is a Git repository. Okay, I have just initialized this as a Git repository. Yep. So far, so good. Have you been able to create the package and initialize it? Initialize your Git repository? Yes, says Jake. Everybody. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Then we have our Git repository. So what we are going to see now is how we can check the status of the files and folders of my project. Okay? Because of course this is going to, if I am initializing this as a Git repository, it's because I'm going to be developing here. I'm going to be creating programs, folders, whatever. Okay? So how can I track the status of the files of my Git repository? Very easy, very easy. The command is git status. Yeah? So as you can see, the commands are very simple. Git init for initializing, git status for checking the status. Yeah? So whenever we run the git status command, we are going to get a message similar to this. Okay? And then basically this message is going to be divided in 3 parts. So untracked files, changes to be committed, and changes not staged for commit. Okay? So here we have, for instance, the changes not stated for commit. Here we have the untracked files, and here we have the changes to be committed, which are none in this case, right? So this is an example. This is just an example of an output, a typical output that you are going to get when you run the git status command, okay? Then, so let's see what we get in our case, okay? So instead of just checking out some examples, and so why not do it and test it with our own Git repository? So here in the robot racetrack folder, we run the git status command, okay? And then we see a couple of files under the untracked files. Yeah, we see our CMake lists and our package XML, right? So these 2 files are in untracked files. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that these files have not been added to our Git repository. Yeah, so our Git repository doesn't know about these files, right? These are untracked files. So if we want to track them, let's say like this, what we have to do is to add them to our Git repository. Okay? So we are going to divide this process of saving the changes that I do into my project into a couple of steps. Yeah, so the first step we are going to call it as staging, and the second step we are going to call it as committing changes. Okay? So Git is going to automatically detect whenever somebody does a change into a file, right? But in order to be able to automatically detect these changes, you first have to add that file to your Git repository. Yeah? So you need to add it, and then once the file is added to the Git repository, then Git is going to be able to automatically track it and track changes. If you delete it, it's going to detect all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but the first step always is to add it to your Git repository. Okay? Then, in order to add a file or a folder to your Git repository, you need to use the git add command. Okay? This is the first step. Then, this is what we are going to do right now. All right, so here we have a simple exercise. In part 1, it says make sure that you are inside the robot racetrack package. Okay, this is important. Run the git status to check the status of our repository. Then we use the git add command to add the cmakelist.txt file to the staging area. Okay? And then run git status again to see the updated status. So let me do it myself. It's going to be more clear as we do it. So as we just saw, if we run a git status command into our repository, what we are going to see is that right now we have 2 untracked files, cmakelists and package.xml. Okay? So if I want to add, let's say, the cmakelist file to my repository, I need to use the git add command and then specify the name of the file, right? Okay. So now, if I run again git status, what am I going to get? Let's see. Okay. So now, I only have one untracked file, which is package.xml. Yeah, this file is yet untracked. But now, the cmakelist file has moved to a different section, which is changes to be committed. Right? So this means that now I have added this file to my Git repository. But right now, this file is in the staging area. Okay? We need an extra step yet to fully add it to our repository, okay? Which is the commit, but we are going to see this later. Then, what I can do now is to add also my other file, right? Because I want to add both of them. So let's now run the git add command for the other file, which is package.xml. And now, if I run git status, I'm going to see both files are added to the staging area of my repository, and they are ready to be committed. Yes? All right, then this is the first step. Yeah, to add the files to the repository, and then they are going to be in what is known as the staging area. Okay? Jake is there with the thumbs up. Okay. So, okay. Now, so we have completed step 1, yeah? Step 1, we have moved our files to the staging area. So we have moved them from the untracked files, so they are no longer untracked. They are known to our repository now, okay? And they are ready to be committed. So now they are in the staging area. So to fully move them to our repository, we need to commit. Yeah? Commit is a very important keyword and a very important process when using Git. All right? Then step 1, again, is to add the files to the staging area. Okay? Step 1. Step 2 is to commit the changes, okay? Then, again, very simple. The command for committing changes is git commit, okay? So whenever I run the git commit command, everything that is here in this section, in changes to be committed, is going to be committed to the repo, to the repository. Okay? So, git commit. Okay? Then, whenever you do a commit, you have to specify a message. Okay? So you need to specify a message because this is going to basically allow you to do version control. Yeah? Each commit that you do to your repository, you have to try to give it a meaningful message. Yeah? And in order to provide a commit message, you use the M flag. Yeah? N flag, and then you put a message here inside brackets, double brackets. Okay? You have the command here also. Yeah? I'm going to skip this for now because it's another thing, but we can have a look later if you want. Yeah? Then, for instance, if you want to just copy and paste, you have the command here, yeah? But you have to understand what you are doing. So git commit -m and then the commit message. So for instance, here, the message is add initial ROS package files. I'm going to add the same message myself. Yeah, so this is my commit message. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, so now if I run again git status, what am I going to get? Nothing. It says, okay, you are on the branch master and there is nothing to commit. So everything is, there is nothing in the staging area. Yeah? The things that we had in the staging area have already been committed, so there is nothing to commit. There is also no untracked files. So we are good to go. Yeah, we have no untracked files, we have no changes to be committed, we are good to go. Okay? Yeah, so nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay? Okay. So now, there is a very useful command also in Git, which allows you to check the history of your Git repository. Basically, this is the history of the commits you have done. So the command is git log. So I'm going to run it myself here, git log. Okay, so I can see here that Alberto Azquerro, with this email, okay, this is the information that we configured at the beginning. You remember? So my name and my email, this person on this date has done this commit. Okay, and this is the commit ID. This super long number here. Yeah, this is the complete commit ID. Okay. And this is very valuable, okay? Because this way you are going to be able to track all the changes and commits that have been done to our repository, to a specific robotics project, and when these changes have been done, and who has made these changes. Yeah? So this is why this is so important for working and developing robotics projects. And also, if you are collaborating with other developers, which is something very common. Yeah, that different developers are going to be collaborating on one specific robotics project. The commit is for the world repository? Yes, the commit is for the world repository. But you can commit only a specific file. So you can only add a specific file, if that makes sense. Okay, but the commit, so the commit is always going to be associated to the world repository. But the commit can contain only one file. So maybe you are only committing, you are only changing and committing one file. The other ones, you don't have to change them if you don't want to. Yeah? Very good question, Jake. So is the repository just stored locally in the Git folder? So right now, yes. Right now, this is a local repository. Okay? However, here is where we have GitHub, okay? Which usually we are going to use Git combined with GitHub, okay? However, in this class, we are not going to cover that part, okay? But keep in mind this, okay? GitHub, yeah? GitHub is the place where you are going to remotely store your repository, yeah? Right now, it's only local, okay? But at the end, what you are going to do is to move it to a remote, which is, and this is done using GitHub, okay? Are these changes supposed to be visible in the GitHub account? Well, right now, no, okay? Because this repo is not associated to GitHub. It's only local, okay? But once you associate this repository to GitHub, then you are going to be able to see all these commit messages in GitHub. In GitHub, of course, yes. Yeah, so right now, this is the most simple setup, which is to create a local repository, okay? This is the most simple setup, but always you are going to be working on GitHub and with an origin, with a remote origin, okay? But yeah, we are not going to cover this today. That is covered in the whole course. Yeah. So here at the end, I leave you a link here to the complete course on Git and GitHub basics, okay, which we have published very recently. And then here you are going to see all, much more information related to Git, how to use branches, GitHub and team collaboration, etc. Okay. Then let's go back to where we left. In any case, all these commands that we are seeing are always the same, okay? Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Then we have this simplified message also, which is just a simplified version, which is git log. We can run git log, and then -- and one line, okay? And this shows me a summarized message, yeah? The commit message and a simplified version of the ID number, as you can see. Okay, and the branch, which is master. Okay. Then we are going to, okay, so now we have added the files to our Git repository, all right? So right now, if we do any modification to our files, these modifications are going to be automatically detected by Git, right? Then we are going to do an exercise here to practice a little bit all this that we have just seen. So we are going to start by creating a new folder and a new file in our repository, yeah, in our ROS package. So I'm going to run first this command, mkdir launch. This command is used to create a new folder, okay? By the way, you can also work with the IDE, okay? With the code editor. In fact, I think it's going to be easier to do it like this. So let's stop for a moment and let's all open the code editor. The code editor is this second icon, which is the side of the side by side to the shell. It's this one, code editor. Okay. If you click here, this is going to open the code editor, which basically it's going to allow us to work with the files and everything using a graphical interface, yeah, which is always easier than do it everything from the shell. Then, yeah, in this case, if we come here inside the Catkin workspace and the SRC, we are going to see our ROS package, which is our repo. Okay, as you can see, we don't see the Git folder because it's hidden. Okay, but we can see the other files: the package, CMake, SRC, and launch. Okay. Then, okay, so what if I run now here a Git status? I don't see anything, okay? So we have a question here. If I work with Git on my Mac or Linux machine, so there should be a Git folder in my home user directory? Yes. Yes, so always that you have a repository, you are going to see this, you are going to have this Git folder. Yeah? If you see this hidden folder in a specific directory, that means that that directory is a repository. Okay? Then you might be asking, hey Alberto, but why I don't see this SRC folder or launch folder in my status, right? Because these are two folders that I have not added to the repository. And they don't appear as untracked, right? If you remember, when we had our files, they appear as untracked. But the folders are not appearing as untracked. Why? Well, just because they are empty. They don't have anything, okay? So as soon as we create a file here, we are going to see it. So let's do this. Let's create a file named like this, virtual_track.launch, okay? You have the command here to do it through the shell. I'm going to do it from here, from the code editor, yeah? To do it from the code editor is just right-click on the folder and then select new file. And then you add the name of the file, which in this case it's virtual_track.launch, okay? There we go. Now I have my file. So now, already, if I click on Git status, my launch folder appears, as you can see. Yeah? Ross Lunan, I just typed Git status into my terminal and got error fatal. Not a Git repository. Yeah. So that means, okay. One moment. So the Git status command can only be executed in a Git repository, of course. Yeah, so if you run Git status, if I run Git status here, this is working. Why? Because this is a Git repository. Okay? So if I go somewhere else, for instance, I don't know, if I come here to a workspace, okay, as you can see here, I don't have the Git folder. So this means that this is not a repository. So if I try to run here Git status, I'm getting an error. Hey, this is not a Git repository. Okay? So Git commands like Git status, Git add, all these can only be executed in Git repositories. Okay? So that's this error message that you are seeing is because that is not a repository. Yeah? Exactly. This is exactly what Nabil is saying right now. Yeah. All right. So okay. So we have created our new file. So now what we are going to do is to add some contents to our file, okay? So I'm going to copy all this code that I have here in the notebook and paste it to my file. There we go, okay? And then I'm going to create another folder and another file. In this case, I'm going to create a new folder inside Robot Racetrack. So in this case, I'm going to right-click here in Robot Racetrack and select New Folder. Now, the new folder, I'm going to name it as config, okay? And there we go. I have created a new folder named config. And now, inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to name like this, racetrack.rvs. So I'm going to right-click on config, new file, and racetrack.rvs. Okay, here I have my file. And then finally, I'm going to, again, select all the code here from the notebook, all the code of this file, and paste it here to the file. Okay? So, summarizing, I have created a launch folder which contains a virtual track.launch file inside with the code here that I have copy-pasted from the notebook. And I have also created a new folder named config with a racetrack.rvs file inside, also with some code that I have copied and pasted from the notebook. Okay? So at this point, if I run git status in my repository, I'm going to see the two folders, launch and config, which are here in the untracked files. So my repository is saying, hey, I am detecting here a couple of folders that I don't have information about them. Okay? So I am not able to track them. All right? Then, okay, just to test this, okay, we can run this command here if you want, ROS launch. Yeah, we can run this command to see what this is doing, okay? Not important for this, but we are going to see that the launch file and the configuration file that we have added, basically they are doing this. They are building a kind of racetrack in RVs, all right? You will see it. You are going to see something like this. After some seconds, see, this is launching RVs, yeah, with a kind of racetrack here, okay? So this represents the work that I am doing, what I am developing, okay? Then let's already stop this, however, for now. So what should I do now? What would be the next step? Somebody tell me. Okay. So add the config and launch files to the Git. Very well. Commit? No. Nabil, we cannot commit if we have, exactly. We cannot commit if we have not added them first. Yeah? So commit only goes after adding. So yeah, it's add, then commit. Check status. Yeah, check status is what we are doing right now. Add launch and RVs to Git repo. Very well. Okay. So let me see this. Because Ross was asking, how do I paste the launch text into the launch file? You just have to select, Ross. You just have to select the code. And then, for instance, right-click, copy, and paste. Here. Paste. Okay, very well. So the answer, the unanimous answer was add, then commit. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to git add, and then I'm going to select config and launch, right? So I want to add these two folders to my repository. Okay, there you go. So now, in my Git status, I'm going to see both in the changes to be committed area. Yeah. So now I can commit git commit m and my commit message. Okay. And then the commit message to add, we can select. Here we have an example message. I'm going to use this one. Okay. But you can put whatever you want here, okay? You can put any message that you want here. So, in my case, I'm going to put add small virtual racetrack. This is going to be my commit message, okay? Perfect. So now, I have committed. Then if I do a git status, I'm going to see that I have nothing to commit, okay? And if I do a git log, let's say one line, for instance, I can see my initial commit here. Yes, this is the first commit I did. Add initial ROS package files. And this is the second one. Add a small virtual racetrack. Yeah? The same is with git log. With git log, I'm going to see this is the first commit that I did at this time. And this is the second commit that I have just made at this other time. Okay? Perfect. Perfect. So, let's do a quick recap before we do the last exercise, okay? So, these are the basics commands that we have checked. Git init to initialize a Git repository, git status to check the status of the repository, git add to add files to the staging area, and git commit to commit these files. And then finally, git log in order to check the history of my repository. Yeah, the history of all the commits that have been made to my repository. All right? Then, in order to add these files to our repository, we have to follow two steps. The first one is git add to add them to the staging area, and the second one is the git commit. Yeah? Which is used to confirm the intention of adding these files. Okay? So, we can, knowing this, we can create this graph, okay? And divide our repository in 3 different parts. First is the working directory, which is going to contain untracked files and modified files. Okay? Then, there is a staging area, which is where I'm moving the files that the new files or the modifications that I add through the git add. Okay? When I git add a file, I'm moving it to the staging area. Okay? Then, finally, when I commit the changes that I have in my staging area, then is when I'm definitely moving them to my local repository. Okay? Then, just for reference, okay, I'm not going to do it, but in case that we are working with GitHub, with a remote, then there is an extra step which is git push. Okay? This is the final step, which is going to push the commits to a remote, which is not in my local computer. Yeah? But, okay, just so that you know, okay, we are not going to cover this, but just so that you know, that in case that you are working with GitHub, then there is this git push step. Okay. Then, how do we add changes to our repository? Because so far we have seen how to add full files, complete files to my repository, right? So what happens if, for instance, I do a modification to a file, okay? Then I'm going to modify right now the virtual track.launch file. So I'm going to select this piece of code that I have here in the notebook, okay? Copy. Then I'm going to come here to this, and I'm going to change. Let me see which part I need to change. Okay, it's the part here where I'm defining P1 to P11. Yeah, so I'm going to remove this. Yeah, I remove it, and then I paste I put this like this. Okay. Okay. So I have changed here these values. Okay. You can try the same if you want by only changing one line, whatever. Okay. In my case, I have changed all this section. Okay. So what happens now? What happens if I run a git status command? Well, what happens is that my launch file, where I have done the modifications, appears here as modified. Okay? So this is a different category. This is a different category, as you can see, yeah? Before, when I was adding new files, they were appearing, as you can see here, as untracked files. Yeah? Because Git didn't know about these files. They were new, and Git was not able to track these files. But now, when we do changes to a file which is already being tracked by Git, then they are going to appear like this, as modified. Yeah? And they are going to appear in this section, changes not staged for commit. Okay? So, how do I add these changes to my repository? I have changed this file, and now I want to make these changes effective on my repository. Very simple. It's exactly the same process. So I'm going to do a git add of launch virtual track launch, okay? I'm going to first add this file. So what I'm doing here is to add the new changes, the modifications of this file. I'm going to first add them, and then, again, if I run git status, I'm going to have now this modification in the changes to be committed. So I have to still commit. Okay? And as message, I'm going to say change it. Virtual track dot launch file, okay, and I commit, and now again my git status is going to be clean, and the changes have been applied to my file. Okay, so it's the same process. Yeah? The only difference is that modifications are going to appear different in the git status, as you can see. Okay? They are going to appear under this section, changes not staged for commit, and they are going to appear as modifications. Yeah, with this modified here. Okay? And that's it. So, exactly, Nabil. Yeah, exactly. Nabil is asking, mainly the goal of the commit message is to say what file I've changed or what I have done, right? Exactly. Exactly, because is to indicate what you are doing in that commit, okay? Why? Because right now this is very simple, because we have done all these commits, and I have done them myself, for instance, and I know what I have done. They have been done right now, so no problem, okay? But in a project, in a robotics project, you are going to be working on a project for months. And then you are not going to remember what you committed 1 month ago, okay? Then is why it's important to use these messages to indicate what you are doing in each commit. Also, there might be other people, other developers doing commits so there could be different developers doing commits to a same repository, okay? So this is why it's important to add messages here, because later, if we need to come and check the code, let's imagine that something fails, yeah? So one of these commits introduces an error in the code. Then we are going to go to the repository and look for all the commits and see where we have changed what file, etc. Okay? How do I check previous commits like this? Git log, this command, git log. This is going to show the full history of the repository. So if I want to run today's, let me read this. If I want to run today's notebook course later on my Ubuntu 20 that uses ROS installed, I download the py install pip install notebook and open the default. I don't know ROS. I don't know. You are going to have to check the instructions on that, on how to install Jupyter and all that in your local computer. I can help you with that, because depending on what computer you are using, you are going to have to install it in one way or another. So no idea. And when the git log is too long for my current shell's display, I get a version of this message I can scroll through. How do I exit this log? I suppose, let me see. Oh, you mean this, right? Yeah. So in order to exit this, if I'm not wrong, it's just, yeah, you're right. You enter the Q. If you enter the Q key, why I cannot write it? 1 second. Q. Okay, I don't know why I cannot write here. I cannot send messages to the chat. Okay, anyways, yeah, if you write here the letter Q, okay, the letter Q like this, let me show it here, Q, okay, it's going to exit, Q from kit, okay? All right. Yep. Okay, great. So yeah, basically that's all. We have reached the hour, so I'm going to leave it already here. Then, yeah, so keep in mind that this is a very brief and basic introduction, okay, to some of the most important commands and basic ideas related to Git, okay? Then, as I was saying at the beginning also, usually you are going to be working with... let me open here the whole course. Yeah. So usually you are going to be working with GitHub, okay, which I have not discussed in this class. Also, there are other very important topics like branches. Yeah, this is super important in Git, etc. But we don't have time to cover anything. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little introduction to Git. And that you start using it for your robotics project, okay? It's mandatory, okay? This is something. If you are going to be working, if you want to work as a robotics developer, you have to know how to work with Git, okay? This is mandatory. So yeah, I hope that you start using it and learning more about it. And let me just, before before closing this class, I'm going to switch already here to my other screen. Well, no, actually, let me stay here. So before closing, I want to activate here the rate form, as always, so that you can rate this class. Okay, it should appear in some seconds here. There we go. Okay, so you can rate this presentation with 1 to 5 stars if you liked it. If not, this is very useful for us in order to get your feedback and keep improving. So no, Ross, we don't have a course to use VS Code. No, we don't have it. All right, so yeah, thanks a lot. I hope that you've enjoyed the class, that you have learned something, and that I have encouraged some of you to start using it. And yeah, I will see you next Tuesday with the next open class. Until then, as always, keep pushing your ROS learning. Bye-bye.